Three, two, three, two, one. Hi guys, welcome to Steel City Screams. I am Ashley Ray,
And I'm Bryn, am I?
and today we have a very special guest, Jake Ryan Baker.
Very special, if you mean like you have to treat me very kindly, I guess. But other than that, quite unremarkable. But happy to be
Jake,
here.
please.
It is true. You did prep us. You were like, you have to be very nice to me. And
Yeah, like if you don't like compliment my glasses, I'm gonna shut it down. Honestly,
Sexiest glasses in the world.
That's true.
I'm
That's
just
how
kidding.
it all happened.
I was trying to think of something innocuous to compliment that wasn't like my shirt. I should have went shirt. Yeah.
Well, it is. You are a special guest because you are special, and I think you're our first guest.
I
Yes.
am? Really? I
Yes.
figured you guys
Yeah,
were
is our
balling out
first
of control on this thing.
Oh my gosh. But yes, welcome to Still City Screams, man.
On the plus side, that means that your guest bar is going to be set really, really low, so there's nowhere to go up but up from here. So that'll be good.
Why you do this to yourself?
I don't know. I can either be self-deprecating or really egotistical, and I hate egotistical people, so I choose self-deprecation.
Fair. Yeah. I get it. I get where you're coming from.
I'm making this is a terrible first impression, people. Seriously, I'm really happy to be here. I love these two. They were a joy to work with on set. They're great people in general, very talented. I'm honestly honored that they asked me to come on. It's so nice to be here.
Thank you.
Yes.
So yes, we all work together on a film, which we will talk about a little later. But let's start out with talking about you, Jake. So, who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? God,
give the people a little bit about you.
That's so existential. I always say, you guys ever seen Anger Management?
Yeah.
Yes.
When he's in the first therapy session, Jack Nicholson's like, "Now tell us about yourself." And he's like, well, my name's this. I am an ad executive. He's like, "I didn't ask what you do. I said, tell us about yourself." He's like, "Well, I'm a nice guy. I like to golf." I didn't say, "What are your hobbies?" I said, "Tell us about you." He's like, "I don't know what you want me to say." I always think about that. I'm like, how would I describe myself if someone took away all my hobbies and things that I do? It's a tough thing, but the whole point is he's trying to get him riled up. But very existential question from an otherwise moderately decent comedy. I'm a big Adam Sandler mark though. So, but generally I tell people I'm a filmmaker, I'm a writer, I dabble in photography, I'm a podcaster, kind of. If you count getting the amount of listens I get on my podcast, a podcaster, but I do it every week. So it counts for something. But both of these lovely people have been on the show. You should check out their episodes if you're a fan of this show.
Yes.
My show is called Tinted Classics. I'm already plugging. I got to get it in quick before people quit on me. Hopefully they'll stay for you guys. But yeah, we did. Let me see if I can remember. Ashley I finally got to watch Audition because of Ashley, because she wanted to do that, and that was awesome. And then I watched I Can Do This. So we watched the Rob Zombie Halloween movie, which was a fucking trip. But now I have a very specific opinion about those movies, which is fun to have that to fall back on in a conversation. But yeah, when you guys met me, I think I was doing BTS and Slate, but I've done a variety of things on film sets. I literally was on set this week. I was boom op one day, and I was just regular old PA the other day. I mean, I have no problem doing whatever job on set. I mean, although being the boom op is very stressful because it's booms in the shot, and I'm like, cool, I ruined the take, fun. But yeah, I do. My favorite thing is to write and direct though, and I've made a lot of short films. I'm working on getting a feature off the ground, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I've got mostly done shorts, but it was all in preparation for taking another big swing. I co-directed something a long time ago. It turned out okay. Everyone that was in it was great, and everyone that worked on it was awesome. It was more just inexperience as a writer and director. I feel like the movie, I look back on it, I learned so much from it, but I'm I really want to, now that I've gained a lot more experience, take another crack at it. But I mean, Yeah, I guess I always tell people I'm a filmmaker, but I mean, I work at the library. That's like my day job.
Mm-hmm.
I love movies. My podcast is about movies, obviously. I do game sometimes too. I don't know.
Yes.
That's mostly me, I guess. I'm 32 years old. I'm 5'10" on a good day. I'm not going to disclose my weight. Single, looking to mingle. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything specific you guys wanted to know, or?
So what kind of have you always had a passion and like wanting to work in film, or was it something that developed over the years?
It was definitely a slow start because I think I just didn't realize it was something I wanted to do until I was in college, which sucks because I meet a lot of people now. Like I said, I'm 32. And
you don't look 32.
yeah, I know I look 37, but no, I'm just kidding. I mean, I don't know, but 33 in like 2 months. The big 3-3 Larry Bird. Big ups. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I'm usually hosting, not guesting, so I feel like this extra need to be like awesome. But no,
You're already awesome.
I was literally on set with somebody yesterday, a friend of mine, Derek, and he was like, I was kind of complaining about like, yeah, if I was younger now, I would have like gone out to LA and tried to get like a writer's assistant job, but I'm like an old man now. And Derek's like, well, what would you have done differently? And I was like, holy shit, I do feel old now. This like 20-year-olds, like, how would you have done your life differently so I don't fuck up like you do?
Yes.
But no, I was just like, I always wrote when I was younger. I wrote stories. I would put my friends like in a fantasy novel and I'd be like, I'm the magic guy. And my friend Glenn is the sword guy and we're super cool. And then I was in college and I saw screenwriting and I was like, huh, I really like movies and I like writing. You can write a movie. And I was like, well, duh, someone has to fucking write it. And so I took a screenwriting course like my second year in college and it has just been movies ever since then. I was like, oh, I found my calling. Cool. And it started off as I was just going to be a writer. And then the more you spend time on sets, the more you're like, well, this is fun. And then eventually you're like, well, no one else is going to direct this thing I wrote. I guess maybe I will. And then I really got bit by the director bug. And I still love writing. And the movie we worked on, I have a co-writing credit on, and I'm fine being on set where I'm not in charge of the thing I wrote. I would totally do like work for hire gigs more, but I mostly write stuff for myself to make at this point. And the thing I love the most is being on set. I as much as I say I'm a writer, it's a real struggle for me to write most days. And
I felt that one.
I have to do a lot of post on my own films and I hate that shit. But the actual production, being on set, like I'm not a morning person, but the only thing I will get up early for is film. Like I had to be on set at like 7 these past 2 days. And I was like, fuck, I've been staying up till 6 in the morning every night. But I was like, we're going to do it.
Right. I definitely can relate to that because on Macabre, it was like me, Tony, Adam, and Faith staying up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and then having to be up at 6:30 and ready to roll for the whole day. And I feel like we didn't have crazy hours as far as like getting stuff done during filming.
We didn't I don't think there was any days we ran dramatically over for sure.
No.
But we were also a lot of those shoots were very daylight dependent anyway, so it was kind of like we lost the sun, time to go home. Home being a sweet ass hotel that we all stayed in, but yeah.
It was cool though, because it felt like we were just like in this big home. And we just became, and I keep saying this to anybody I've spoken to, either on my personal podcast or with Ashley, even just alone. I feel like we became like a family, and I love every single crew member. And I do love the cast, obviously, as well. But, of course, I spent a lot of time with you guys because I was working with you guys on a daily basis. So we had to be, a crew, obviously, that's what they're called. But, I feel like we just became a family and we were able to create something very awesome. Have you seen the trailer?
I've seen most of the movie. Tony sends me cuts of the movie. Me and Tony bros.
I'm gonna text Tony and be like, yo.
He has the in.
What's going on? Well, and like and plus you're closer with Tony. Like I mean, at least from the way you've spoken, like you've worked with him a lot and you've known
Well,
him
I
for a
mean, the
long
movie's
time
still in
too.
very rough shape, and I know he knows that I know what post production is like, so I'm not going to be like, well, what the fuck? Where's the sound when she stabs him? It's like, well, I know it's
Right.
not there yet. Like, I'm not judging it based on that. Cool, you can hear
Yeah.
that dog drinking in the background. I'm dog sitting for my aunt and uncle right now, but
Oh, you're good.
That's
but
okay. All three of my cats are right over here, so I know there's going to be a chaotic noise at
no,
some point.
my streamer friend Jancy, she just put a cat tree behind her so that they can be on camera. You gotta get a cat tree and just like post it up behind you.
I love
That's-
that.
Yeah, I have to now.
But yeah, I mean, when you spend that much time with people, we spent like 2 pretty intense weeks of working 12-hour days each. But it's just so funny. It's like if I had to work 12 hours at the library, I would be miserable by the end of it. But 12 hours on a film set just flies by. And part of it is
Yeah.
because you're always trying to make your time, always rushing to try to get the next shot. And it's like, it's so funny. And it's very existential when you think about it, how time as a concept moves so differently depending on the situation that you're in. Nothing feels faster than a film day where you have a lot of setups that you need to do and you're trying to get to each one. And it's, all of a sudden it's like, it's been a half hour. We did like 2 takes. This is insane. Like what is
Yeah.
happening? And then if you're like in some interminable lecture or something, 20 minutes feels like an eternity. But
Yeah.
I mean, you spend time with people, and thankfully, and a lot of it is Tony and Sander, you know, you find people that you know have good taste in people, so that you can be on their sets and know that the people that they put on their sets are going to be cool.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think eventually a lot, especially like in the indie world, some of the shittier people get weeded out eventually.
Yes.
But you know, it's funny because I've heard a lot of horror stories too. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
well, this director was a megalomaniac and blah blah blah, and you do get that sometimes. And you know, like we said, it's like 2 straight weeks of 12-hour days. Occasionally, you can get a little tired, tempers can flare a little bit, and on a production like ours, which was a moderately big budget production where there's a lot on the line, it can get a little intense. But you know, I'm always surprised because and I genuinely don't mean this to sound like some sort of humble brag or something, but I'll have actors be like, "Oh yeah, you were really easy to work with." I'm like, "Well, what sets have you been on?" Because I'm like mid at best. Like, I just was like, I treated you with common human decency, and that was like a step up for you. That's not good. What's going on out there? But Tony's good with his people. Like I even, you know, assume he's all of our mutual friend at this point, Roman. I met Roman on the previous film I worked on with Tony, and I was like, I feel like I'm like, I don't clash with people. If I don't like somebody, I just shut the fuck up about it. But I was like, Roman's not normally the type of guy that I would like get on super well with or anything. And then I just was like, 2 days in, was like, this guy fucking rules. I love this dude. Right. So it's just like, I just think Tony has good taste in people. And you just find people with good taste in people and try to stick with them, you know? And it also feels validating when you identify someone as someone with good taste in people, and then they ask you back, you're like, oh, am I good people? I didn't think I was, but maybe. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think that's why it ends up feeling like family on Macabre Mountain, because all the people were good people. And,
well, thank you. Yeah, I have, unfortunately, I worked on a set before, and it was just very it was all women. So maybe that was the issue. We had
no guys. Dude, that should not be the issue.
Yeah, it feels like it should be the exact opposite.
Yeah, that actually pisses me off that you were on a set with majority of it being women and it was a bad experience, because nowadays, and like this should have been happening for forever, but you know, women should be lifting each other up. And you know, when you're on a full set, like on a set and it's full of women, it's so empowering to me. And I'm not saying any shade towards the men. Majority of you are all right.
No one shades men more than me. You are perfectly within your rights.
But you know, I mean, like, there's certain men, get your shit together. I digress. That's another conversation for another day. But, to stay on track with this real quick, that should be something that's very empowering and very just amazing overall. And I feel like women are also like really starting to take over the filming industry. And
Mhm.
it's so beautiful to see. But to hear that you had a bad experience on a set that had a lot of women on it, that really disappointed. I can't speak English, should I?
She's enraged.
I am enraged. It should not be like that.
That's a
So
shame.
sad.
That is a real shame.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I wouldn't say it was something professional like Macabre Mountain, or anything like that. So I joke too much estrogen, but it's just
Was everybody on their period?
so I just no comment. So I just kind of, it was so nice when I came on to Macabre Mountain as like an outsider. I just felt, yeah, like I was making a family, and it was a different experience than I had ever had before, I guess. So yeah, but then I went through like a little bit of a depression afterwards because I missed
Oh yeah,
everybody,
Absolutely.
there's always post movie. Thankfully I was more mentally prepared for it with Macabre Mountain, and also being a little bit homesick, being all the way in West Virginia was a little bit helpful. But after Tony's other movie, when I got back from that, I was like it was about a week into being back, and I was like, oh, I'm like depressed, like
Yeah.
really depressed, because it's like there's, like I said, there's nothing I like better than being on set.
Yeah.
And so when that's gone after you've been living it for 2 weeks, it's like, well, it's basically like coming down from a high, I guess. And so it was shitty. Plus, what was great about The Undesirables, Tony's other movie, was as a night owl, most of our shoots were from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. and I was
Oh
thriving.
wow.
I gotcha.
Everyone's like chugging coffee at like 3 a.m. and I'm just like walking around chipper as fuck. Like, oh, hey, that's the next shot, guys.
I did an overnight shoot before. It was brutal, but
I love
we
it.
needed you.
It's funny that you both say that because, surprise guys, I'm starting to work on my own movie. Stay tuned, fans, friends, whatever we are going with right now for
And enemies,
all the viewers.
And enemies, yes.
Get those hate clicks too.
But I'm really excited because I've been working on this script for very many years, and obviously Ashley and Jake are going to be working on it too, which is incredible to me. A lot of people from Macabre are as well. But to move forward a little bit with it, Jake, you're going to be happy because, a lot of my shoot is going to be overnight.
Yeah.
And I'm such a night owl. So like, let me sleep all day and I will work on a set all night. Now, again, like how you said too, I mean, I'm not a morning person either, but when it comes to being on set, I will wake up as early as I need to, because it's what I love to do. But like, put me on a daytime job and it's like, I'm just getting there when I'm supposed to, because I can't.
Yeah, with Macabre, I was like, okay, call time is 7 a.m., but it's in the hotel lobby, so I could wake up at literally 6:55 and put my shoes on and walk downstairs. And sometimes it was like, oh no, we're going to the haunted house today. I was like, I have to get up like 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna make all the difference in my sleep. I actually did get kind of regulated on that shoot though. Like it finally did get to the point where I was passing out at midnight because I was just so fucking tired from the shoot, and also just from it took about like 3 or 4 days of just getting only 4 hours of sleep until I finally just burnt out enough to get normal, I guess. Although I saw a tweet the other day that was like, we've given morning people too much power, and I do agree with that. I read somewhere that biologically some humans are morning people and some humans are night people, because in tribes you needed people to be awake during the day and you needed people to be awake during night, so the wolves didn't come and get your ass like in the middle of the night. And I'm like, I'm definitely a night watchman from some old tribe for sure.
Me
So what are
both.
the people who are neither? Because My whole everybody would be dead if I was. But I'm just joking.
Damn.
Don't put Ashley on watch.
No, don't. So yeah, so since we're talking about Macabre Mountain, you tell us a little bit about your roles on set because you kind of had multiple roles.
Yeah, and it's tough because we did have a larger crew than I'm used to working with, but even still, we didn't have the full coverage of like everyone just had like a singular job at all times, and that's the way I'm used to working. It's like, we were joking on set this week where even though I was the boom op, I was like moving shit around when I wasn't boom opping or whatever. And me and my friend Dan were like, if this was a union gig, we would get yelled at for moving this chair right now. Because that is how it is. It's like you can't touch a cable. That's the electric guild's job, and you would like literally get in trouble. But it's still a pretty low budget set, even for a movie. Even if the budget for the movie seems gargantuan to people like us, I assume it's still like very low budget for a film. So you end up wearing multiple hats, and that's fine. I like being asked to do anything. I do it with glee, and I love being on sets where I'm not necessarily in charge because I just get to be like a fly on the wall. And it's like, oh, you want me to move the sandbag? Cool. But I think technically Tony brought me on as a gaffer or a grip or something like that. I was more meant to help Roman, who was the first AC, but I ended up we just didn't really have a dedicated slate person. So I kind of ended up running slate a lot. And in the meantime, I was trying to juggle shooting as much behind the scenes photos and video as I could. Our sound guy, ironically, had a lot of really fun camera gadgets that he just kind of kept throwing in my arms from time to time. And I would have this like little DJI pocket camera, and I'm just like filming stuff. And I didn't have my good camera at the time, which sucks. If I had the camera I'm literally shooting this webcam with right now, that would have been fucking awesome because I love this camera. But yeah, I mean, BTS is probably my favorite non-director job, but I love it all. I mean, and I was moving lights, moving equipment, all that good stuff. And then I also did, like I said, with me and Michael Taylor, who's a good friend of Tony's, and I consider him a friend. I don't know how he thinks of me, but we worked on like the final draft of the script as well, which was interesting because there was a lot of it was less of a writing gig and more of like a jigsaw puzzle that we were sort of assembling, because it was like all of these people are in the movie, make it fit. It was like, right. Alrighty, let's see what we can do. But it was really fun. Michael is a fantastic writer, and he's fast as fuck. That guy can write so fast. He literally would jam out like 80 pages in like 2 days, and I'd be like, what the hell, dude? So I was kind of playing more like editor and like fixing things, and like, I mean, and no shade to Michael, but part of the caveat with him writing so fast is like there's a lot of issues with like grammar and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. I need to fix this. And then we would like talk about things that were working and weren't working and stuff like that. But yeah, it was funny too, because originally Tony came to me first to work on a draft, and I started working on this draft, and I got like really far afield of like what the movie was supposed to be. I was like writing these subplots that weren't helpful at all. There was a whole female sheriff character that was becoming like a love interest for the main guy, and they had a whole relationship going on, and I was really enjoying writing her. And then I was like, this character doesn't have anyone playing her. Why am I spending so much time on Stella, the sheriff? So I was like, I need to just scrap this. But there's like a 55-page script somewhere of a much different version of Macabre Mountain that I started on and just threw in the bin. But yeah, so, and it was nice, having, and then Michael was on set for a little bit. We were both there, and we of course both knew the movie well enough that like if there were big story questions, like if some of the actors asked me a couple things like, well, what's my character's deal right now? And it's yeah, you got really thrown in the deep end. You were like, literally your first scene was like, here, hold this axe, we're in the climax. It was like, oh shit. And you're like, I don't really know my character, and it's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the rough cut. You and Kamara are really great together, and I thought you guys were great together just watching, but the chemistry is it's there. It's like on the screen. I think it super works. So it was
you.
really nice to see you guys together. I think that chunk of the movie really sings because of you guys. Because it is like
Thank
there's
you.
so many characters. It's like you do have to rely on the actors to bring a certain amount of charisma because you don't get to spend as much time with them as like maybe something that's a little bit more of a focused character study per se. So you know, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders as an actor, just to be like charming and cool and hope that the audience will just like take to you immediately. Like I think your introduction in the movies, you come in and like say that bathroom's really neat. You should go check it out. It's like that's how we introduce you.
Yeah.
But
My
yeah,
scene was so funny.
yeah. I think you're the writer Michael's ex or something like that in the context of the movie.
Yeah, so I'm so like I can't wait to kind of see how that scene unfolds because everybody was like, "Come get your baby daddy," and I was like, "No, I broke up with his ass. Bye." But it was so funny, and I just remember this one picture of Michael and I when we were in character. We had this picture taken, and his finger was on my nose, and I was like, and it was like the cutest picture. So you see these pictures of our characters, and then you go and watch the movie, and you're like, oh, this relationship's very complicated and doesn't look like that at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Michael's a really great actor too, as well as writer. He's pretty much like one of the leads in Tony's other movies. So you guys will get to see him doing some sort of Chicago accent. I don't know necessarily what he was going for in that one, but he was full on Hick in the Macabre Mountain movie.
Really?
I think he wore a hat that he bought from a gas station on the way to the shoot for the shoot.
Yes, I know he had a hat on, but I did not know that that's where the hat came from. That makes it so much funnier. I know that's not a word, but we're gonna go with it.
And he's stage trained too, so his little, not to spoil the movie too much, but his little scuffle actually looks really good because he knows how to sell getting hit really well. So I'm excited for people to see Michael get his ass kicked on screen.
Period.
Would you ever have you ever done acting or would want to do acting?
I do like TikTok skits sometimes, but
Okay.
I suck at acting. I'm really, really bad. I always say as a director, I have such a huge admiration for actors. It's my favorite part of directing. I've gotten more into the camera stuff and the cinematography and, you know, the visionary parts of being a director, but there's nothing for me that beats like talking to an actor about what their motivation is and how they should like deliver a line. And it's just, there's so much nuance to it. There's a really great, what are you doing to me, bud?
I saw a tail behind you wagging. It looked like you had a tail.
He was making a nutso sound just now. There's a really great video you can like find it on YouTube. It's called like "What Makes Anthony Hopkins Great," and it's this scene from Westworld, and just the subtle nuance, and even just a glance from him is like, I'm like, I could never. I could never. And so like I've always thought about like just for fun casting myself in something, or I would act in something if somebody wanted to like throw me in something, but I wouldn't be good. I'm like one of my only skills that I say I have as a director that I actually am proud of is recognizing talent in other people. And I have enough of that in me to know when I see myself acting on camera, it's bad. And so I'm like, that's just not really something that's ever, and it's good too, because a lot of low budget directors will just kind of be like, oh, fuck it, I'll just cast myself in the thing. And it's just, you know, you have to be really talented to make that work. You have to be like Joseph Gordon-Levitt or something when you're making Don John. It just a lot of times it doesn't. You can always find someone that's good, and then you can focus on directing, and they can focus on acting and stuff. So, but it's also like there are people that can wear those hats, you know. And I always tell my actor friends, I'm like, you should write your own material for you to be in, because a lot of times no one's going to give you the shot that you want, or sometimes you get sort of pigeonholed. No one's going to give you the character that you know you can play. You know, you guys are both actors, and so you know the range that you have and stuff. And I think I've talked to both of you guys about how you totally should spearhead your own projects because you guys have the chops. But me, no, absolutely not. I don't got it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You were one of the people who like encouraged me to do that. And I mean, I'm still working on that, but it was something I never really thought about. I was like, okay, either have to do this or this. And I mean, you're proof that you do multiple things. And so,
I always say,
thank you,
like, it just
sir.
depends. Like, you know what your limits are, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're, say, you know, Bryn, I mean, are you planning on playing one of the characters in your movie that you're doing?
So I've been debating it.
I
So
mean, you don't
and
have to reveal anything you don't want to, of course.
oh no, and I don't mind talking about it loosely. I'm not going to give away like anything about the movie, but and before I even get into that, I was going to say give yourself some grace because you know if it's something you love and you've considered, I mean, try checking out classes. I mean, there are
I
actors
have
that
always
never
wanted
stop
to. I want to
training.
go to an actor class just to see what it's like from their perspective, not
Yes.
necessarily to become one myself. I just would like to know. I would love to, because that's how Tarantino started. He
Yeah.
wanted to be an actor, and you can tell because he gets great performances out of people. It's probably because he studied the craft really seriously for a while, and so
Yeah.
I would love to go to a class, but not for me to be in anything or anything like that.
And that's
Uh,
fair. And I mean, it's good that you know those things though for yourself. And if it's something you do want to move forward with, then I know you would take the steps because I know what you love in the industry and clearly you've talked about it as we're speaking here. And when I think back to my takes on Macabre, I beat myself up. I feel like I'm really getting to a place where I hate watching myself. And it's like chill. Like I need to try to tell myself to chill. Not every performance is going to be the most perfect performance in the world.
Well,
All I should
there's a
worry
lot of
about,
actors that don't love watching themselves anyway.
right,
I mean, I remember Christopher Walken says like, "I don't watch any movie I'm in." Like, it's like, yeah,
right.
so,
And
super
so,
valid.
but and it's hard. I mean, well, it's not hard. It's not hard. You know, you just have to have that belief in yourself and just let it go. Like you got casted, you got the job. So like take that with grace and humbleness and just run with it. And just once it's done, it's done. It's there. You did your best in that moment. And all you can continue to do as an actor is continue training, continue trying to work. Auditions are all also, in my opinion, almost like taking a class because you're acting still. Even if you don't get the job, you're still getting that opportunity to have casting directors see you. And then a lot of times they remember you and bring you back for more work for different projects
Hmm.
because they see something in you. And a lot of times, I mean, you've heard the stories of people who've never taken any classes, but then they're like booking these friggin' huge ass movies, which is like great for them. But that's also not everybody either. If it's something you deeply love and are passionate about, which is what I am, deeply passionate and have a huge love for this industry and what I do. And so you just got to keep working, just keep working and don't beat yourself up over it. I think that's something very, very huge that's a big hurdle for actors. Stop beating
Sure.
yourself up and just say, you know what? I'm on that screen now and I fucking did it. And it might not be something I completely love, but other people will see me. And all I can do is keep working my ass off to continue to grow as a performer.
Hmm. I mean, it's hard too because acting is a lot of rejection too, where
Mm-hmm.
you submit to so many things. And I was telling somebody the other day, it's hard even from the director's perspective. A couple shorts ago, I did the first auditions I'd done in a long time because previous to that, I just was like, well, I want to work with this person and this person. I'll write something for them and we'll make it or whatever. But this second to last thing, I was like, I want to try to see what else is out there. So I had a casting director friend of mine do like an audition call, and there were so many talented people that submitted, and I was like, I can only cast two people. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I have everyone I like to have them earmarked for maybe for future projects or whatever. But it's just tough because it's one of those things where it's like dozens of people are submitting, and it's like it's even if you're like so fucking talented, it's like, and also auditioning is so weird and awkward too, and sometimes isn't even like necessarily reflective of like what your ability actually is and stuff like
Right.
that. It's just, it's eventually you just kind of have to like get in a couple movies so people can like really see what you can do, when how you look when you're really on camera and when you're in the moment. Because like I rarely see an audition that is just like not at least a little bit awkward, because it's like I have my friend on Zoom on the computer just off screen and they're reading the other lines, and it's just like everything about it. So like someone that had to do a callback in a crowded cafe for me, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to try to really focus in on like the performance here, but it's just like it's such a, yeah, that's another thing about being an actor. It's just like I don't know if I definitely couldn't handle it. I'd rather just work on my projects. it's a very stressful, it's a very intense thing, but it's like when you really get in there and do the work, it's great. And it's super cool. And I just like, there's probably nobody I respect more like on a film set than actors. I literally was talking to some of my screenwriter friends about, calibers of actors and stuff like that. And I was just like, God, I literally said something really cliche, like, God damn it, I just love good actors or whatever. It's just because we were talking about that Anthony Hopkins video. And I was just like, man, when you see someone just really do their thing, it's really transformative. And it's really awesome as like a writer director to see somebody delivering your words in a way that you're just like, oh, it's like real now. It's so cool. But you were saying like, if you were to cast yourself, I do think that you absolutely could juggle that. But I do think a lot of it comes down to, you probably would need somebody really reliable to shoulder a little bit of the burden as a director when you're trying to be on camera, because you just can't focus on everything at once. Like a really good actor friend of mine, who's like a theater guy, he told me recently, he's like, I'm never casting myself in something I direct again. He's like, I just can't fucking do it. Because like I'll be there trying to do a scene with an actor and I can't focus on it like I was a director sometimes. But some people can wear those hats. He just knows like it's not for him. I definitely don't think it would be for me either.
And see, like, and just to kind of, get that out or end that part of the conversation. I have contemplated it, and I've had, a couple people that I have been talking to that are going to be on the crew say like, no, you should do it. You should do it. And I'm like, but here's the thing. I didn't even write this with me in mind. I'm not opposed to it. I might still do it, but I feel like I should still audition like everybody else, even though it is my movie. I don't feel like it's right for me to just place myself in my own movie. And there's another script that I'm slowly trying to develop that I want to play the lead in, but I'm also writing that with myself in mind.
Sure.
Whereas with this script, I haven't at all. And I have certain people pictured for a lot of these roles already, and still I have to audition them. And so again, not opposed to it, but I feel like with this film first, I really want to focus on the directing. So that's kind of a to be determined, but I'm pretty set on just sticking as a director for this first big feature film that I want to do.
That's pretty awesome though. Either way you decide, and it is tempting, because it's like, if it's your movie, there's going to be no one more reliable than you to fill certain roles. It's like, I know I'll be there. And so that is nice. It's a nice thing to do.
Absolutely. And, I'm sure I can find something if worse comes to worse, as far as like casting or whatever. But I feel like I have a nice chance of casting it without me being in it, if that made sense. In my head, but
give yourself a little cameo like M. Night.
That's true.
Alfred Hitchcock it.
I could figure something out as far as that goes too, but I'm pretty solidified on what I have the script as too. And Adam, who, just to tell the viewers, who also worked on Macabre Mountain as the other AD with me, him and I are solidifying it. And as soon as that script gets solidified, we're going to start reaching out to talent. And I'm so excited for that process, because there are some SAG actors that I'm looking at, And I'm so excited to see where it goes, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I get this person or that person, I'm gonna literally like,
Yeah.
but not to be dramatic, but I mean, there's just so many people that I would love to work with because I just admire their work. And even as an actor, I've also come to learn that besides going to class, I can sit down and watch a TV show or watch a movie and I'm learning from them. And it's so amazing because it's like a master class without a teacher. It's so incredible to go through that, even when you're not in class. So I just love what I do. I can't emphasize that enough. I love what I do.
Yeah.
So I want to move on to something more fun, but I did want to ask you before we
More
do
fun.
that.
We've been having so much fun.
Yeah, Ashley, what the heck?
That did come out really rude, didn't it?
I know, I totally feel you.
I was like, all right, I'm over this. No, just kidding. So Macabre Mountain was a horror film. Do you prefer horror, or are you into working on everything, or?
Oh, that's a good question. You mean me, obviously, not Bryn. I mean, Bryn can answer too. I think that's fair. Actually, speaking of directing, I'm going to be a slight director right now. I'm going to close these blinds because I am glowing white right now.
Oh.
I love everything. I don't have any people. Well, if you tell people you're a writer or a filmmaker, they'll be like, well, what do you write? And I'm just like, I mean, I write everything. I mean, I like dark comedy. I like darker things. I do like horror, but I almost like more psychological things. But horror is I think horror and sci-fi especially are really great genres to explore human ideas through a genre that's still fun and like titillating. With horror, it's like the scares and whether you want to go existential with it or just pure slasher or whatever. There's so many fun directions you can go with it. I mean, the feature that I'm sort of dancing around maybe doing is roughly in that genre. It's more dramatic and psychological than like a true horror, but in the indie world, nothing sells better than horror.
Yep.
And so if there's any way that you can market the thing that you're doing as horror, it's helpful. But I like horror. I mean, I was trying to think because I realized, I know this is like kind of a horror movie podcast to a certain extent. I was trying to be like, oh, what do I say if they go, oh, what horror do you like? I'm like, I mean, I like lots of different stuff, and it depends on what you classify as horror. I think that, would you call Black Swan a horror movie? Because I really like that movie.
I think a lot of people do consider it. I don't know if it's one of those big fights in the horror community, but
yeah, I mean, I really like a slow burn, so I really love stuff like Hereditary and Midsommar.
Yes.
I did see Beau is Afraid last week, but I wouldn't call that a horror qual. What was I about to say there? But yeah, so Midsommar is really up there for me. I love that movie. I just love the slow burn of it. It just keeps building and building until you hit the end and you're like, how the fuck did we get here? That's the kind of movie I like, where by the end of it, you're like, how did we get here? When I think about how this movie started versus how it's ending, I think that's one of my favorite things, is just like, wow, where did we go? But literally. I love everything. I love comedies. I love anime. I'm not the biggest sci-fi nerd, but I like it as an idea. I think sci-fi is really fun because you can do really big budget space stuff, but you can also do stuff that's like very high concept, but like low budget. Like I was just talking to a couple screenwriter friends of mine. I'm like, do you guys have ideas that are like high concept, low budget ideas? Because I have a couple that it's more about the idea of what happened that you're not necessarily seeing. Like one of them was like about a woman who kills her own clone. And it's like in a world where clones aren't very like, it's like clones didn't exist. So it's like this woman killed somebody who by all accounts seems to be her. And it's like the police are trying to be like, how the fuck do we classify this? She killed somebody, but it's her. So how do we do this? And then you can ask a lot of fun existential questions about that. I love like clone stuff. I love you know, being in someone else's body, psychological stuff. But
Yeah.
you know, I watch dumb comedy stuff too. I grew up on Adam Sandler and Jim
Mhm.
Carrey, Dumb and Dumber. I can probably quote Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore like all the way through, pretty much.
Same. Same.
See,
Stupid
I'm
son of a bitch,
fairly
ball. Why don't you just
I'm
go
fairly
home?
new to comedy. I was never really into it, but I've actually been like catching up on all the Adam Sandler movies, and so I'm getting there. But
It's a
like,
trip. I don't know how it holds up if you didn't grow up on him. I'm a big Adam Sandler defender. As I've gotten older, I gravitate more towards his more serious stuff, and I do defend him as an actor a lot too. Because I think if you watch Punch Drunk Love, if you watch Uncut Gems, if you watch like The Wedding Singer and stuff like that, when you actually
I
get to see
love The
him
Wedding Singer.
I
like
just watched it
act.
the other night.
It's good. It's actually really good. He's amazing in Punch Drunk Love, though. That movie fucking rules. I tell people more. It's not so much about the genre anymore for me. It's about the creators. I
Mhm.
have a lot of directors that I like, and just like with Midsommar, excuse me, Ari Aster made Midsommar. Beau is Afraid is in theaters. I'm gonna go see it because I like him as a director. You know, there's a movie I really liked called Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. I'll always go see anything that that director makes because she made one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm front row center now for anything she makes. If
Mhm.
Park Chan Wook makes something, I'm gonna go see it. If Martin McDonagh makes something, if Tarantino, if Yorgos Lanthimos, it's more about the writers and directors for me at this point, or the actors. I have a lot of actors I love.
Yeah.
Everyone that knows me knows I'm obsessed with Colin Farrell. I'll go see anything that he's in. I'll pretty much go see anything Anya Taylor-Joy's in for the most part.
Mhm.
At this point, I'm a big Florence Pugh fan, although she's in some stuff that I'm probably not going to see that movie where her and Morgan Freeman are like yelling at each other a bunch. But I'm
I
excited for her to be in
love
Dune.
Florence Pugh. I
I think
love.
she's really great, but of course, I've already mentioned Midsommar, so I just think she's really talented. Anything I see her in, she's always like really like god tier acting. And again, it goes back to like loving actors. And when I see like Emma Stone's been working with Yorgos Lanthimos a lot, and it really is exciting for me because it's a actor I really like working with a director I really like. They
Mhm.
just recently announced like she's going to be in his next two movies. If people have seen The Favorite, she's in that. You know, I'm even like mildly interested in this new Indiana Jones movie just because Phoebe Waller-Bridge is in it. I'm like, well, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is in it. Maybe that part will be good. And maybe they let her write some of it, and maybe it'll not be bad because she's an amazing writer. If anyone's ever seen Fleabag, it's God so good. Fleabag's so good. But I more just look for. It's not so much about the genre for me anymore. It's about the people that are making it.
Um, there was something I was going to ask you, but I forget.
Because I talked for 15 minutes and you were like,
No, not at all. But something Bryn and I had talked about was when we do these interviews, we kind of want to talk about something that you enjoy or that
Sure.
you like. And so you had mentioned, because we kind of had talked about either talking about a movie or a video game or something along those lines. And you had said when we were talking about filming or something, I can't remember, but you said you were going to
Dungeons and
play.
Dragons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we were trying to schedule the podcast, I think I was like, "Well, we can't go after 7 because I play D&D at 7 on Sundays."
Yes.
See,
See,
I've seen I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons. I've always wanted to, but
Mhm.
I have sat around and like when I was in college, one of my buddies played Dungeons and Dragons. Pretty positive it was also on Sundays, LOL. But I would sit there some like a couple different
You were like,
times.
"You should
and I
be in
would just
church right now. What are you
watch.
doing? You're playing the devil's game."
But yeah, it's interesting, and I enjoy it. I'm like, okay,
Wow, I
keep it
think
going.
like of anybody, actors I think would get such a kick out of. I mean, a lot of the popular D&D has become very popular these days. You have shows like Critical Role, Dimension 20, Adventure Zone, personal favorite of mine, Not Another D&D podcast. A lot of those people do come from improv and acting backgrounds. I'm blanking on her name, but one of the main characters in Critical Role, she's like a ridiculously renowned voice actress. Like, she's amazing. She's in everything.
Is her name
Why am I blanking on her name? It's so
oh
horrible.
gosh, Ashley Johnson?
I think Ashley Johnson. She's a really, she plays Ellie, I think, in
Yes.
but yeah, that's not the one I was thinking of. But I forgot she was. I'm actually not a big Critical Role guy, which is very blasphemous to say, because like that's the show that everybody loves, and like all my D&D friends are like, you gotta fucking watch Critical Role, and I'm like, I will. It's just so much. It's like hundreds of hours of stuff, which is very daunting if you're trying to get into D&D content.
Right.
But you know, I tell people, you know, even if you're not that much into like swords and magic and fantasy, there's other tabletop role-playing games you can play. There's a cyberpunk varietal, there's a space adventure varietal, there's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer varietal if you're more into that, like Monster of the Week and stuff. Yeah, and some of them are even more less complicated, where it's just like you're rolling 2d6s and that's your only dice. You're not having to juggle a shitload of numbers. And ultimately, really, I was thinking about it because I knew we were going to talk about it. The thing I kept coming back to is much like a movie set that you're on, or say you're, were you guys ever in school? I was thinking of this analogy today, and this is going to sound so prepared because it was. But I was thinking about when I was in college and I had certain subjects that I was like, oh, I love writing. I can't wait to do this writing class. And then I would have this professor who sucked. Not naming any names because I don't remember him anyway, but it was just like, yeah, man, this class should have been awesome for me, and the professor sucks. And then I would take a class where it's like presentations and blah blah blah. And I'd be like, ugh. And then I would have a super awesome teacher that made it not suck. And that's what D&D is like. It really all comes down to your DM or GM, your game master, dungeon master. You have to just find someone who vibes with the way you play, and it can be hard. Much like people have had bad experiences on set with certain directors. I've listened to people have bad experience with bad GMs that don't let them play or have fun, or like, you know, color outside the lines when they want to, or just railroad them. Because being a GM is tough because you have to prepare hundreds of hours of story for people, but you also have to prepare for them to be like, yeah, but you said there was a goblin dancing in the corner and I want to go talk to him. And you kind of have to be like, because you have to let them do what they want to do. Like, you don't have to, but I mean, it's like, oh, there's a mysterious guy who's beckoning you. And then over in the corner, there's Scribbles the goblin. Oh, Scribbles? He sounds fun. Let's go. And you got nothing on Scribbles. So you're just like, Scribbles, he really likes chocolate, and now Scribbles is like in the party or whatever. So you have to like be ready for these swerves. I've been really lucky currently. It's such a weird chain of events where a friend of mine was playing Among Us with a streamer, and they were looking for people, and I was like, I'll play Among Us, sure, why not? We all became friends, and then somehow as a part of that community, we started kind of like floating the idea of playing Dungeons and Dragons together. And I was like, I fucking love Dungeons and Dragons, I'll play. And now I'm like having the time of my life playing Dungeons and Dragons. And, you know, to sort of tie it into horror, the campaign we're playing right now is called Curse of Strahd, which most people, if they like D&D, know that campaign. It's like, it's a lot darker and more scary. We've seen some gnarly shit actually, and it's like just bodies hanging, like eyeless, and witches just like fucking you up, and witches that like bake children into pies, and the main villain is this vampire who's obsessed with this woman that you're trying to protect, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna marry her because she looks like the woman that I lost when I was younger. And it's just like very psychological and dark, and I'm loving it because I love that shit. I love darker, more psychological. A lot of times people will have a more funny, goofy time, and we goof, still we'll do goofy shit, but I love that everybody in my current party will get into it and they'll role play and stuff. And that's the thing that was always tough for me to find other people that would role play. Cause like I've had some very serious moments as this character. Like it affects me, like my week going forward. There was like one time I got aged 40 years by a ghost. And I was like, I don't know how Anya moves forward from this, because she's like, she just lost like over half her life. And I think she would be I was literally like, am I going to have her just turn evil and start playing another character? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with her. I don't want to stop playing her because I fucking love her. I purposely made a character that doesn't have like a super dark backstory. Like, she had a good home life.
Okay.
Her parents were very supportive. She loves her sister. Her big caveat is, and I really slow burned the party on this one. Her race is changeling, which means that she can shapeshift into different people. But I'd never shapeshifted like for multiple, like many sessions, like dozens of sessions. As far as my party knew, I was just a human, a redheaded 19-year-old human. And she is 19, by the way. My party doesn't believe me, but she is 19, like canonically, even as a changeling. But I didn't shapeshift because I was like, she identifies as Anya. That's who she is. But then I got hit by something and it forced me to like morph in front of everybody. And it was very like traumatic for her. It was just like, and it was interesting. I was like really in that headspace as that character. And I could start to see playing her. I was starting to be like, this must be what it feels like to be an actor a little bit. To get really invested in a character, because I'm thinking of like what I would do as me, but then I think about what Anya would do as her. And I'm like, she wouldn't do the same things I would do in every situation. And sometimes it's hard because you're in a battle and it's like, well, Anya would freak out right now. But I'm like, statistically, it'd be better if I blasted this guy with this magic spell. But I'm like, I don't know if Anya would do that right now. I'm like, do I kind of fuck my party over to be true to the character, or like, what do I do? I've been really encouraged because like everyone's been very in character too. So I felt like it's like a safe space to just be like, no, I take a break this turn and stare at the clone of myself because it's like really freaking me out right now, and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, Anya, she's just a sweet Irish lass, and she doesn't know any better.
Be back home in Ireland.
I've been trying to work on making her a little higher pitched.
I like it.
She is a 19-year-old girl, but I can only go so high.
So that's interesting.
I need to work on my Irish accent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I watched Banshees of Inisherin and I was like, fuck off. You fucking, I don't want to be your friend no more. What the fuck are you doing? You don't want to be our friend. You're my friend yesterday. Colin Farrell's like my Irish accent inspo.
Questions.
Yeah, please.
So I have only played.
I got wildly off track there.
So I have only played once, and I was getting a little upset because my friends did not play the spooky version, and that sounds really cool. And I had no clue what I was doing. It's like my friend was trying to teach us, and it's
another thing that comes down to the GM, where two of the people, my friend Jancy and my friend Robert, they've really like Jancy played in one very short campaign with me and another friend of ours where she kind of learned the ropes but not really, but they're new, and you just have to find people that are willing to, like, we're not annoyed if she has questions. We want her to thrive and do well, and we try to steer them towards, because there's also different classes you can play, and some of them are more beginner friendly than others. Like Jancy played a bard in the first campaign, and now I'm playing a bard, and she keeps telling people like, yeah, I played a bard and now I'm in a party with one. And I was like, wow, I was doing it wrong. And I'm like, it's not your fault. You didn't know like that, like you could do all this other shit. Like you just were like, I hit him with my sword. And I'm like, there's a class that your one move is I hit him with my sword over and over again. And it's a totally valid class. Like it's a great class. You do the most damage. Yeah. So a lot of it, there's a lot of nuance to it. And yeah, there's a lot of math too. And that can be kind of daunting.
Yeah. I don't like math.
But most of the programs will do it for you. It's like you press the thing and it rolls the dice and does the math, and it's like, and again it goes, the GM's the one that has to keep track of all that shit anyway.
Okay, good. Then I'm not worried about it. That's a GM's job then.
Pretty much.
So that was my other question, because I played it in person with friends. So do you play online with your friends?
I do.
Okay.
We're kind of spread out. Jancy lives in Nevada. One of our players lives in the UK. I feel bad for
Wow.
him because when we finish every session, it's like 5 a.m. his time. But I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, we're kind of all spread out. Robert lives in Chicago. I've been thinking about trying to visit him if he was amenable to that.
Yeah.
I've never really had an online friend that I've like tried to go see before, but I don't know. But in person is fun, obviously. And then I'm sure you guys have like when you're in person, even just being here on Zoom, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. There's like this back and forth where you just can't quite capture the vibe of being in person. But there are a lot of really great online programs that are very immersive. And so there is a nice element to that. If you can just get on Roll20 or Foundry or Beyond and just get on the little maps and all that stuff, it's just, it depends on what you can do. It is very hard to find an in-person game like with a bunch of like-minded individuals who want the same flavor as you. It's like you said, you wanted to be spooky, but maybe they didn't want it to be spooky. So you got to like find the people
That's
that
exactly what happened.
you vibe with. You can only push it so much. Like I've been in D&D games before where nobody was interested in role playing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
basically role playing by myself while they're all just like, I roll this, okay, cool, I do this, all right,
Yeah.
my turn's done. And I'm just like, where's the drama? But you can also, if you're more into the gaming element of it, you can find people that are less into the role playing and feel less pressured or whatever. But it really is about, I think, most of all, just feeling safe to explore and like you won't be judged.
Yeah.
I am very lucky to have found, it's hard. I really can't say how lucky I know I am to have found a group that I feel very comfortable with. And it's sometimes it takes some trial and error. And I've played in other games that were fun and with literally close friends of mine that just weren't as, no shade to them, but like not as satisfying to play in, because I was creatively looking for more of a role play experience, more of a place where I could be a 19-year-old shapeshifter with like body image issues and stuff. Like
a 19 Irish girl.
Irish. I do almost always do an accent for my characters.
I love that.
My space campaign, Irish Russian. I was hard drink and Russian. It's gone now. I was this close to playing like a French character. I want to play like a really snooty French character that's like a total bitch, like Ice Queen, because I'm usually not very mean. It's like, what are you talking about? Get away from me.
I love the accent.
I love it.
But yeah, Irish is like one of my go-tos. I was a foul-mouthed Brit in the other campaign I played with Jancy. It was like, just like sex joke after sex joke. But since I'm in a group with a Brit, he's like, please don't do British stuff. I was like, okay. I won't insult you with my shitty British accent.
It's interesting because it seems, and I don't know if it was maybe Stranger Things. I don't want to offend anybody who plays Dungeons and Dragons, but it seems like more and more people are playing it and know about it. At least on because I'll like be like to my friends, hey, you want to get together? And they're like, no, I have D&D. And then I'll ask another one, no, I have D&D. It seems like, well, maybe they're just telling me that, but
no, you just say, can I get in on this? But no, it's become in like, I was kind of joking about, oh, you should be in church. You shouldn't be playing the devil's game. But it kind of was seen as that in the 80s. It was like, you're witches and wizards and doing sorcery. The only thing you need is the Bible. You don't need a dungeon master's guide, even dungeon master. It does sound a little kinky, for sure. I honestly think that's why game master has kind of become a little bit more of a popular term. But I digress. It's like, it's infinitely more popular and the shows have really taken off, and it's how I got into it. Like I was consuming D&D shows and was like, this is so fun. I want to do this, and it really, you can, if you find the right group, you can get whatever you want out of it. And it does, if you're like creative at all, or even if you're not creative, it's like any sort of hobby that you have that blows off steam. Like maybe in your normal life, you're like this buttoned up accountant, but at night you're a fucking dragonborn with a giant axe who just slays people and like gets laid all over the place. And so like, I mean, it's wish fulfillment, like to a certain extent, you know. And so I think it's become more accepted. It also helps that this is very nuanced. I'm not going to go super deep down this rabbit hole, but the current edition that we're on in Dungeons and Dragons is 5th edition, easily the most user friendly it's ever been. It's super streamlined and a lot, like if you tried to play OG D&D, it is unnecessarily complicated to a degree that's just like it bars entry for new players because it's too much. Whereas 5th edition is very streamlined, very user friendly. So it's just kind of this mix of the rise of streaming and all these D&D shows taking off, with the current edition being very friendly to new players, and it's a very welcoming thing. And the parties can be big. Like our Strahd campaign, I think there's 7 of us. Like it's a pretty big party, but you can also play with fucking 2 players and the GM, like whatever floats your boat. You can make anything work, and the GM will tailor the fight. He won't throw 7 parties worth of enemies at you, hopefully, if he's a good GM. He won't, but again, that's a whole other thing. But I do think it's never been more popular than it literally is right at this moment. And it seems to only be gaining popularity. I don't know what the apex or what the plateau is, but I don't think we've quite reached it, which is pretty cool.
The 3 of us are going to have to play a game together sometime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys would be great. It would be so fun to have you guys as like players or whatever, or even if you wanted to. I mean, I think it's better to experience it a little bit as a player before you try to jump into like doing a GM. I've always wanted to GM something, but I'm also like, holy shit, I'm so busy. It's a gargantuan task to GM a campaign. It's like literally writing an entire story, preparing all these materials, and literally preparing for multiple different options should your party decide, oh, well, if they go to the general store, then this is going to trigger all these things. But if they decide to go straight to the church, I need to be ready for that. Right. It's like it's pretty. Our DM, his name's Quinn. I don't know if I'm actually realizing I don't know his full name, but he's Quingar on the Discord. I think his name's just Quinn. I don't think Quingar's a name. I don't know. Now I'm doubting myself, but I mean, he's just like, he more than anybody in the party or whatever, he deserves the biggest shout out. He's fucking an amazing GM, and it just like
shout out Quinn.
Yeah, I just don't think like, all of us love him and appreciate him so much, but even still, I think we still could heap even more praise and like just admiration for what he juggles from week to week. We just played a what's called like a one shot where you do like kind of a short story that theoretically can be accomplished in like one session. Ended up taking 2 sessions, but hey, and we were all like the highest level you could be, so we were all like super powerful, and we just fought these like really powerful creatures or whatever, and it was fun to just be like godlike strong in something. And I was like, but of course I still got really deep into I wrote like a Google Docs worth of like backstory. I was just like, when she was young, she did this. By the way, I always play women in campaigns. Any choice I can, I always play a chick. I don't know what that says about me, but it's
I was
just
a dude, I think.
I encourage it. I wish more people would experiment with like, if you're like a guy, you don't always have to just be, well, I'm buff man in this campaign or whatever. Like you can be a little goblin chick or whatever you want to be. I think it's really fun to play around with. It's like, why not be something that you can't necessarily be normally in your real life? I think that's like the fun of it. But yeah, Quinn's the best. The one shot was fun. I was a cleric who was obsessed with pain. And I talked like very dommy mommy type stuff. It was just like, oh, bleed for me, darling. She didn't really have much of an accent. I was just kind of like very sultry when I was her. And I didn't get to role play as much as her, but yeah, I healed some people and we lived. So, hey.
I'd say we definitely have to play a game together sometime.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I'm out of accents I'm good at, though. I guess I haven't broke the French one out yet, but someday.
That'll be next.
I think that one's a little shaky. I'd have to work on it. I need to like go to an acting class and like learn accents, and they'll be like, well, "What role are you preparing for?" It's like, "Oh, I'm playing like a seventh level ranger." She's what? Yeah,
It's
she's
for the
from.
second installment of Dungeons and Dragons, a movie.
Hey,
like
the movie was pretty
bullshitting it
decent.
a little
I didn't
bit.
hate it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, but I didn't know if it was safe territory to ask, so I wasn't sure. But how did you feel about the Dungeons and Dragons movie? I didn't see it, but I've
I
heard.
was telling everybody it was the thing where I'm very personally very starved for swords and fantasy content in like TV and movies. We get a little bit, but not as much as I would like. I love that shit.
Mhm.
That's what I read growing up. That was all I read when I was a kid was like Lord of the Rings and the Drizzt Do'Urden books and the Shannara Chronicles and all that stuff. And we don't really get a lot of it. So
Mhm.
seeing Dungeons and Dragons on the big screen was very thrilling. The movie itself is about as like down the middle of a fastball plot wise as you could possibly imagine. The characters they're fun, they're quirky, everyone's doing a great job. The plot very predictable. Guess what, guys? Spoilers for Dungeons and Dragons: the good guys win. I know it's shocking, but but it still was like fun. It's like it's basically like a movie probably anyone could enjoy, but if you're a D&D nerd, you do get a little extra zhuzh, a little juice to squeeze out of it because you're like, holy shit, I know that spell. That's pretty cool, actually, that
Yeah.
they included that.
Yeah.
I like Chris Pine. I've always said he's my favorite Chris of the Hollywood Chris's. It's just my opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own. I like Chris Pine. He's also one of the only ones that's letting himself age a little bit, which is nice. He's become a very silver fox type man, and I'm enjoying that. But he's good in it. Michelle Rodriguez is surprisingly good. I think she's fine, but she's pretty
Mhm.
damn good in the D&D movie, honestly. I don't know any of the other actors except for Hugh Grant. He was solid, but everyone did a good job. I was very pleased with how competent it was because I was scared because it could have been terrible, and instead
Yeah.
it was like pretty good, which is
That's good to
good.
hear.
My only problem with it is like I think it cost a lot of money to make, and it did okay. Which the problem is all these fantasy movies cost so much money, and they don't make like as much as they need
Mhm.
to make it become more of a thing, which is crazy because we were just talking about D&D is so popular, fantasy's become so popular, and yet the movies never quite do as well. I was kind of joking, and this isn't to like play into like a cliche or anything like that. I was like, I hope that the people that made the D&D movie know a lot of the people that want to see this movie will probably consume it at home,
Right.
like once it's like streaming, and that's not like any shade or stereotyping or whatever. It's just like I assume some of the D&D crowd isn't your typical go out to the movie theater crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly
Yeah.
what you mean.
So I'm sure they'll get a lot more. I think they'll be surprised whatever metrics they're keeping track of, like when it lands on HBO Max or wherever the hell it goes. I think it'll probably get a lot more views than they think it will, and hopefully
Mhm.
that will help. I don't know how. I don't know how any of this works, but probably should since I want to make movies. But hey, here's hoping. I guess I liked it. It was good. I don't know if I'm telling anyone that's not super interested in fantasy to rush out and see it. Other than maybe pushing the budget, the box office up would just be helpful for me as a fantasy fan. But it's a perfectly good movie.
Mhm.
Not my favorite thing I've seen this year. That would go to like either Beef or Suzume so far. But hey, by the way, check out Beef on Netflix. Completely sidebar, but has nothing to do with D&D. But Beef was fucking great, and I would highly recommend it.
Nice.
Stephen
Well,
Yeun, Ali Wong, amazing.
I've met him. He's super nice. I love him.
Really?
Yeah. Whoa, got a fuzz. Well, I think, we appreciate you coming on so much and being our first guest. It was so awesome. And before we wrap up,
Oh, wrap up. I thought we had another 2 hours. I thought.
I mean, we could keep going, whatever.
No. I glanced at my record time. I was like, no, Jake, you've talked for so long.
No, I
We love
appreciate
it. We're here for
Yeah.
it.
No, we love it. And We appreciate it. And is there anything else that you want to talk about or say? And I definitely want you to plug your podcast and all your social medias if you want.
Sure. I appreciate that. I mean, the thing I would most plug is, like I said at the beginning, if you guys love these people like I do, you should check out their episodes of the podcast. It's a great entry point for you. Clear Tinted Classics, just search it. You'll find, I put their names in the titles. Although I swear, did I introduce you correctly when we did our podcast, Bryn? Because I queued up you guys' other episode on YouTube, and I was like, "That's how she says her last name." I don't remember that at all.
So it's funny because we talked about it before we started recording, and I think we mutually agreed to do it as a joke. And so then we were like, kind of like acting. At least that's how I remember it, unless you like forgot like right before we were doing it.
There's a really good chance I did. I always have this moment of panic when I'm introducing people where I'm just like,
you're totally fine, because honestly, for like the first 15 years of my life, when I was going through, normal school, all my teachers were like, Brian, it's Bryn.
Oh no, I'm not the Bryn I have. It's the last name that I was like, because whenever I read it in my head, I read it as like Dami or something like that.
So you can always like kind of make this little joke. So it's damn I. So like damn I. Blah, 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 whatever.
Damn, I'm impressed with Bryn.
There you go.
But no, you guys should check that out. Clear Tinted Classics. I mean, if you guys have got the tiniest taste of how much I fucking talk, so you see me full tilt on that. So prepare yourselves if you do listen, because I try, especially when on my show where I want the guest to be able to speak and elaborate and stuff. Sometimes I feel like I steamroll a little bit, and I'm trying to be better about it. But I definitely didn't do that today. I just steamrolled all over you guys' podcast. But hey,
we appreciate it.
I get fired up about D&D, so
yeah.
I'll plug D&D in general. You guys should play. Everyone should give it a try.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to guests, I mean, you're a guest for a reason. We want to hear from you. And yeah, we're the hosts, and we have our own little side episodes too. But I feel like it's important when you have a guest to, get as much as you can out of them while you're talking to them during an episode, because we want to introduce you to the world too. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys. I felt like I was in safe hands for sure.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you feel that. I'm glad that you feel that way.
Plugs. What else? I'm Jake Ryan Baker on most things. I have an Instagram account if you want to see some of my decent photography. I'll call it decent. I was gonna say mediocre. I'll go with decent.
No, it's very good. It's very good.
I'm getting really into like doing headshots lately and all that stuff. It's been fun.
Nice.
Really blessed by the fact that a lot of people are just willing to like let me try stuff on them and just do different things, and it's been fun. I like Instagram. It's just a really nice platform for just seeing what people are up to. You just see set photos and cute stuff, and it's nice. And so I'm Jake Ryan Baker on there. I'm also Jake Ryan Baker on YouTube. If you want to see any of the YouTube stuff I've done, guess what? It's on YouTube. But I have like if you go on like playlist, I have a playlist of all the films I've put out, like everything that exists in the world. I post it to YouTube eventually if it's not like making a festival run or whatever. So if you guys want to see like whether I'm a hack or not, you can always check out my YouTube playlist. Like I think some of my films are decent. I quite like going through it. If you guys want a place to start, I think I put that as the first one that plays, so should be able to just click on that. I'm pretty proud of that one. It's like my stab at like a dark comedy. It's sort of I don't know if I should spoil it, but it's basically like a serial killer shows up to kill this woman who's, guess what, about to kill herself, and she's like,
Ooh,
well,
deep.
Interesting.
We seem to be at a impasse here.
Yeah.
But it's also really just a metaphor for like a date that goes wrong, kind of. So
I love that.
There's like a lot of double entendre stuff, and my friends Daisy and Todd are really good in that. I think they're fantastic actors. You'll see a lot of repeated faces in my stuff, just because like I find people I like and I work with them a lot. Daisy's in quite a few things. Todd is in a lot of things because I actually in that aforementioned draft that got binned from Macabre Mountain, I was writing a character for Todd, and I was going to try to get Tony to bring Todd on because I was like, you got to get Todd. But yeah, so love Todd. So yeah, my YouTube channel, I would love for people to check the films out. I think I got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. I've just been really bottlenecked with random shit I've been working on. I feel bad. God, do I say this out loud? Maybe the more I say it out loud, the more I'll shame myself into knuckling down and getting shit done. But I have 5 films in post-production right now, and it's really bad. And some of them I shot over a year ago at this point. It's just like they're in just various stages of being done. But I have I'm really proud of some of the stuff I've shot recently. And I just need to finish it and get it out there. Because like I shot it with like the more experience I've gotten, the bigger I can get with my crews. And like the more advanced I can get with the stuff I'm using. The last 3 things I shot were on the same camera we used for Macabre Mountain. So like it's just like a real step up in quality, I think, that you guys will see hopefully. But yeah, podcast, YouTube, I don't really know. And I would obviously plug the movies that we're involved with, like, you know, keep an eye out for Tony's Macabre Mountain. For some weird reason, I'm blanking on Tony's last name. Walters. God damn.
And you know what? We'll add everything in the description too, links and stuff like that. So,
but Tony's like they're getting dangerously close to finishing Macabre Mountain up. It's heading towards a fall premiere pretty much. So you guys, I mean, you're already fans of these two, so you'll keep an eye out for Macabre Mountain. I'm not too worried about plugging that one, but you should be excited for it because it's a wild fucking movie. There's a lot of really cool shit that we did. I mean, there's explosions, there's helicopters, there's some crazy stuff.
It's exciting.
Also, it was the first time I ever got to experience axe throwing, which I've always wanted to do, and that was super fun. I miss it. I've been wanting to go axe throwing for really bad the last month or so.
You were great.
I'd never done it before. I was like, am I good at this?
Oh my gosh, wait, no. Remember when so we low-key had like a competition while we were on break, while we were eating lunch the one day, and I remember throwing it, and there was one that I hit in the middle, and then I threw the next one like harder than I thought I did, and it fucking bounced back, and I was like, oh my god, okay, I'm done. I'm not killing myself or anybody else. That was so terrifying. I was like, just throwing the axe. Like,
I would plug axe throwing. I know it's kind of become popular in the past few years, but it's legitimately fun. It just feels satisfying to like throw something and it just like sinks into the wood. You just it's almost, it must go back to like our caveman instincts or something like that. But yeah, you know, please check out Macabre Mountain, but also for Tony and you guys, I'm sure will love it. The Undesirables, when that comes around, you'll see some familiar faces. And I mean, a lot of the crew that worked on Undesirables worked on Macabre Mountain. And so I'm really, Undesirables is something that's a little different than normal for the indie film scene too. It's not so much a horror movie as it is like a crime drama that kind of takes place in this future dystopia and stuff like that. Like the world is really cool. Again, Michael, the guy who co-wrote Macabre Mountain, wrote Undesirables and he stars in it. So if you want to see the hick who gets punched out in Macabre Mountain, like be like a goofy gangster guy, like you can Undesirables. So I would super plug that.
Lily. That's literally also, what he sounded like.
But please, like, my biggest plug of all is like continue listening to this podcast, regardless of how you feel about me. I'm just a one-off guest. You're always going to get them, and they're great. So, so please, like,
I love you.
Like, and make sure you guys hit subscribe. You don't just watch their videos and don't subscribe. You got to subscribe. You got to fucking comment. You got to hit like. You got to do all that shit for them because it's
ring the bell.
Yeah, ring the bell. Like it sucks to have to ask for that because it's annoying, but it helps. And I'm ashamed to ask for it for myself sometimes, but I will unashamedly plug you guys and say that anybody listening to this right now, go hit that shit right now. I'm looking at you. Go fucking do it. Go hit their stuff. But you guys are so great. I'm so happy that you had me on. It's been so fun talking to you.
You have to do your camera zoom and say that again.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Now it'll be comedic.
Are you guys, look me in my eyes right now. Look at me, but still move your hand to that mouse move it to the bell. Hit the bell first. Not even subscribe. Just hit the bell. There you go. There you go. Good, 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 good. Now subscribe. Good. Now go to comments. This episode fucking rules. Can't wait for more. It better be like 20,000 comments to just say that. And what I'm still saying, you're also typing that too. And now you can stop. That I'll type all of that, and then that's the comment. So
this is the best day of my life.
but no, it's been so good talking to you guys. It's fantastic.
Thank you
You
so
too, Jake.
much.
Thank you.
And make sure to follow Jake on everything that we will have in the description. And Bryn, would you like to sign us out?
Guys, thank you so much again for joining us. I am so grateful to have had Jake on this episode. I would love to have you back, so we'll definitely be in touch about another episode for sure. Thank you guys so goddamn much. We appreciate all your love and support. And like I said, Ashley and I are very busy, so we are working our asses off to bring so much content to you and the best episodes that we can possibly make. So we love you, and we'll see you next time.